Hello, my name is Rebecca Hanasek-Monhe, and for the first time ever in any of my graduate studies, I've decided to submit something via video. Never done this before, but I thought it would be interesting to try and give you an opportunity just to see me as well. So hello. So this week, for week 2, we were charged with 2 questions from chapters 4 and chapters 5. And they were, really relevant for what we were studying and reflective of what was, again, being taught in those chapters and in the PowerPoints. And I just wanted to start by saying, in regards to chapter 4, as it was stated in the PowerPoint, good research is about using the right platform for each piece of study, for each activity and interaction. And again, that is quote from Nick Drew. So the first task in chapter 4 was that we were asked to determine how hospitals prepare and train volunteers. And because in this example, me, the researcher, know relatively little about this subject, what would you find out and how would you proceed and move forward? So this is really about research design and specifically how to effectively collect data. Now, when we look at the definition of exploratory studies, it tends to have loose structures with the purpose of discovering future tasks. So in doing this exploratory research, we'll be able to determine how to proceed forward. So this study, because I truly have limited knowledge and understanding about how hospitals do train volunteers, I would actually start with exploratory research. And I would start by looking at credible sources or secondary data. I would look at literary works, I would look at journals, I would use the library and again look at case studies to see what the history has been and how to move forward. I would also visit hospital websites. I would also look at the history of volunteers in hospitals. One thing that I do know before even pursuing this question was the concept of candy stripers. My mom was born and raised in New Jersey, and she was a candy striper. And in doing tertiary research and doing research on Google and on the website, I learned a little more and found out that they actually were created in Orange County, New Jersey in 1944. So again, I would use secondary data, journals, research articles, do web research, and look at hospitals and see what kind of programs they have to help establish a methodology. Again, evaluations have to be based on purpose, scope, authority, audience, and format. And then after that, of course, what I would do is take it to the next level and start just asking people about the opportunity to volunteer at hospitals. I think it would make sense to have conversations with actual volunteers in hospitals, to have interviews and conversations with directors, folks who recently created such programs, look at their handbooks, look at the reasons, the rationale, why they decided to create such a program. And that's really where I would take it. Now, in terms of the second research or the second case study or question posed in chapter 5 of our text, we're looking at a situation with Nike and more specifically Foot Locker. And what's interesting about this is I'm from New York City and I travel into Manhattan every day for work, and I walk by a Foot Locker and a Nike store. I'm closer to the Foot Locker, and time again I have seen these ridiculously long lines in front of a store. And so the first time I had seen this, I walked up to a group. It was a young group of individuals. I was wondering why they weren't in school. But basically, they were waiting for a new shoe. And so this question in chapter 5 is very similar to that. So basically, in a nutshell, they want to know what sample group would you pick? Because basically, Nike and specifically Foot Locker had identified a situation where they would be launching a new brand, a new shoe. They identify a specific shoe. And they thought that they should, because of these long lines and sometimes the way in which folks would get impatient and maybe bring hostility and anger to certain situations, they wanted to see if just creating an online presence where folks could online order these brand new shoes to avoid such a situation would be a wise and prudent decision. So the question is, what sample group would you suggest to use to assess whether or not changing the model from in line at a store to online pushing buttons and ordering would be most prudent, and would that work? So first, I think it would make sense to define sampling, which is the process of selection of a subset in individuals within a statistical situation. And a sample group actually is what we need here. And a sample group, as defined, is a subset of a target population. So what we want to do is we want to assess the situation, but we want to use the right target population, the right target group. So when I was observing personally this line, it was mostly males. If I recall, I don't remember, maybe one female, but mostly males, ranging anywhere in age from as young as 12 with a dad, up to 40, 50 years old of age. So you want, again, a target population. Now, how are you going to get to that target population? Because there are so many other variables as well. So I was thinking, right, it might make sense to look at the loyalty programs of either Nike and Foot Locker and see if they already have a list of individuals. In terms of random sampling, it wouldn't make sense to just start and randomly interview people on the street. There needs to be a commonality, something common. And so with a loyalty program, we know that these are individuals who've signed up and registered to be loyal customers. They have an interest in the products. They want to buy the products. And with loyalty programs, quite often there's a correlation with an address and an email address. Now, remember, Nike or Foot Locker, they want to change the model from, hey, let's wait in line at a store, to let's put this online. So again, it makes sense to have a target population of individuals who are computer savvy, who have access to an email address, and who could make this transition from waiting in line to the computer. Again, also, we just want to keep in mind the sampling design. Number one, we want to define that target population. Number two, we want to define the population parameters. Number three, we want to define and evaluate sample frames. Number four, we want to define the number of cases. Number five, we want to define the sampling method. And number six, we want to define selection and recruiting protocol. So that's pretty much where I would start. And I would, again, it'd be a simple random sampling with a target population, looking also at specific demographics to see if it would make sense to switch the models. So I hope that's all I have. It was nice talking to you via video, and thank you, and have a good week.